It's 1:30. I'd like to call the October 15, 2018 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call, Commissioner Clare.
Here.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Here.
Commissioner White. Not available. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner George. Not available. And Commissioner Milner.
Here.
Can I have a motion concerning the minutes of the September 17, 2018 meeting, please?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Milner. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 17, 2018 meeting by Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Milner. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to the report of license, taxi, and record service, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just wanted to point out on my data sheet here, I've had to put vehicle decal transfer. That's we've had that. That's when a vehicle is burned to the ground or badly wrecked. I just transferred the decal over so we keep stats on that. It doesn't happen very often. It's very rare. So, but we had one. So, just a little slow this quarter. So, taxis we had 25 new, 35 renewals, 2 replacements, vehicle inspections with 17 passed, and 1 decal transfer. Limousines, 26 new, 9 renewed driver's license, and 4 vehicle inspections that passed. Carriages had 1 new driver, 2 renewed. Pedicabs, we had 2 new drivers, 6 renewed drivers, and actually had 2 pedicabs inspected. Then shuttles, we had 2 renewed drivers. Exempt means that they're under the umbrella company, so they get multiple permits for the same company, Airport Express and their limo company. Then we had 17 shuttles come in, they passed. Also wanted to keep you updated on our taxi industry. It's not doing so well. We're down to 5 companies now. When I started this, we had 14. So just giving you an update.
Is there a count on the amount of cabs that are out? Do you have that?
Guesstimating, well, Yellow Cab's our largest, so they have around 150 on the books. Twister's around 22. Thunder Cab has 6. I think Thunder Cab will probably be our next one that's not going to make it. Mr. Joffer is selling the company right now, so waiting for that transaction to transpire.
Right, so we're down in the 180s to 190s?
I would say maybe just a little over 200.
A little over 200.
So
and we were up in the
500-600 cars at one point.
I'm sorry, we just said
500 or 600 cars.
500 or 600, okay.
And that didn't include the rest of the industry on top of there. So
right.
So it is, they're thinning out. So trying to help them as much as I can to keep them up and running, but it's kind of on them too. So.
Right.
Have any questions?
I'd just like to say thanks to you for all your help that you do, and to all the limo and the taxis for being in there to get certified, to keep their safety items up. We all know about what happened just a few weeks ago with that one limo.
New York, yes.
Yes, and so that's very sad, but it takes a lot of work to make sure that the vehicles that are out there are safe, and so thanks to you and to all the people that work out there.
I appreciate it.
Okay, we go on now to item 4, the consent docket. Do we have anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? Do we have any staff input on the consent docket?
Other than we're recommending approval of all the items as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 4, the consent docket?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Clare. Do you have any talk on the consent docket? Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent docket by Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Clare. Can I have your votes? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5, 5A, Michael Masson, Blackhawk Pumps and Services, to consider request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Greenfield Center Drive and West Reno Avenue. Hi, sir. Can I have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Michael Masillan. I live at 2813 2813 Windsor Boulevard in Oklahoma City, and I work at 6125 West Reno, which is where this intersection is. And I've witnessed a lot of damage in the last 2 years, both personal injury and property, from cars speeding down Reno at 50 miles an hour and people pulling out in front of them. It's happened. I've seen a lot of accidents in the 2 years, and so I just called in and said, hey, you need to look at putting a traffic light in there. And I know it's a lot of money, but seen a lot of property damage. Just seen a lot of personal injury too. A lot of ambulances. So,
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
thank you.
Anybody else wanted to speak on this item? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
Sure can. We've got on the staff report before you, when we ran out and ran a signal warrant analysis for this location, we found that it met all three of the traffic volume-related warrants, and it also met the crash experience warrant. And these are based on the full volume conditions for reviewing a traffic signal. Because the speed limit's posted above 45 miles an hour on Reno, it could have been reviewed at, using lesser value criteria. But this particular case, it's a location that appears to definitely warrant the use of a traffic signal, and for that reason, we're recommending approval. And we're also, in the summary of staff recommendations, since we're recommending the use of signalized traffic control at Greenfield Center Drive in Reno, we're further recommending that if the signal's approved, then east and westbound left turn lanes need to be installed on Reno Avenue at the intersection. So, subject to staff recommendations, we're recommending approval of the item as it's being presented.
Thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
Motion to approve with staff recommendations.
We have a motion to approve item 5A with staff recommendations from Commissioner Clare. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hale. Do we have any discussion on item 5A? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5A with staff recommendations from Commissioner Clare, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Okay. Item is approved. We go on now to item 5B, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., President, Johnson & Associates, Inc., to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of South Meridian Avenue at Southwest 25th Street / Southwest 25th Circle. Mr. Johnson, you have up to 5 minutes. Name and address, please.
Tim Johnson here on behalf of the applicant. As the staff report indicates, this signal doesn't warrant, is not warranted, doesn't meet the warrant criteria, but our developer, who does nothing but develop industrial tracts all over the country, is very concerned about this location. He's started the development for, this is the first building that'll go in. The street's already built, but the whole site will be developed just like this style of industrial warehouse. So, 90% of the traffic will be truck. And so he's concerned, and this is an application really for preventative problems, and he's concerned that with the heavy truck movement coming out of this, that it may cause problems on Meridian, as well as he feels with the gap in the signals that are there today, our spacing, you can see from the Airport Road up to I-40, the spacing of the signals is pretty consistent except for in this gap. This is our proposed signal at 25th Street. And the concern is that the traveling public will accelerate their speed in between there and cause more concern. So that's why we've made the application. I think we knew going in that it was not going to meet warrants. The owner is planning to pay 100% of the improvements and not asking the city for any funding. Another part of this, and I want Caleb in my office to come talk about this maneuvering here.
Sir, if I could have your name, address.
Caleb Morgan, Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan. As Tim said, it didn't meet any warrants, but there's going to be a large amount of truck traffic, and we did a turning movement using a standard truck size. And as this shows, basically trucks turning in and out of the development will take up both southbound lanes. And that's a real issue. The signal will help, especially with the exiting movement, because as they're pulling out of the development, it takes them a long time to accelerate, and they'll be taking up both lanes. And as Tim showed you, there's a large gap between the signals at this location, and there's not a platoon effect that happens. There's constant traffic through this area, and that tends to cause a higher rate of speed for traffic, and that would be a real issue at this location for trucks turning out of it. So, as we said, we know it doesn't warrant, according to the MUTCD, but we're looking for the safety of people on Meridian whenever this thing is fully developed and there's several trucks, potentially a minute leaving.
Okay. Sir, do you have anything further?
With that, we just ask for your approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have a question?
Can we see that last exhibit?
Yeah,
Us
sorry.
over here can see it the way it was.
That's
Okay.
exiting and entering. That's even with, we widened that drive a little wider than a normal, narrower, standard city street. It's a 32-foot, and we, with 30-foot radiuses, which is a standard industrial section.
Okay. Sir, do you have anything else? Good. All right. Do we have staff input, please?
All right, well, you've got our comments before you. As the applicant's representative indicated, that this particular location is not projected to meet any of the MUTCD traffic signal warrants for consideration of a signalized control at the intersection. There aren't any decision site distance conditions that would, as a mitigating condition that would warrant its use. With one respect, when they were talking about speed, the 85th percentile speed that we've got in this area currently is running around 42, so it's posted 40, so we're getting reasonably good observation of the posted speed limit. So since the intersection, at this point in time, since it doesn't meet any warrants for use, staff doesn't have any cause to recommend the use of signalized control at this particular intersection. Since it doesn't meet any warrants, should the Traffic and Transportation Commission approve the request, staff recommends that a motion for approval be subject to the following, which is the applicant and/or the party they represent be responsible for their preparation of construction documents and bear all construction costs for the signal, and also be responsible for making necessary pavement marking modifications on Meridian Avenue at the intersection. So subject to staff recommendations would be it's at the discretion of the commission to approve or not approve the request for the installation of a signal at the intersection of South Meridian Avenue and Southwest 25th Street. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Littlefield
With staff
with the two
recommendations
staff
and
recommendations.
requirements, yes.
We have a motion from Commissioner Littlefield to approve item 5B with the two staff recommendations. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Schuline. Do we have any talk on this item? So I just have one question. What's the projected truck traffic numbers if it's all up and running? He builds all 8 plots or whatever the plots are.
So fully developed, the total traffic would be around 800 vehicles per day. And so and depending on how they develop it, of course, but you could see as many as 600 trucks per day entering and exiting this location.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments on item 5B? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B with the two staff recommendations from Commissioner Littlefield, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5C, B.J. Hawkins, P.E., P.T.O.E., Traffic Engineering Consultants, Inc., To consider a request for, one, a traffic signal at South Sooner Road and Southeast 67th Street, including, two, a no turn on red restriction on northbound South Sooner Road at Southeast 67th Street. Do we have anybody? Oh, hi, sir.
Hi there.
If I could have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Mason Schwartz, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Also have Mr. B.J. Hawkins here on behalf of, well, he is the applicant, but both on behalf of the property owner to the west, which owns the 80 acres to the west of Sooner Road there. I'll be brief as far as a quick synopsis of what this is and let Mr. Hawkins speak to the technical requirements. We are here today for a proposed traffic signal for us to install at our own cost and to bear those costs solely. This traffic signal is required as part of the rezoning that was done in 2017 for this property, our client's property to the west, the 80 acres. That project, which was rezoned under PUD 1643, was a project that was done to approve the rezoning for approximately 516 residential units to go in there on the west side of Sooner Road. It will bring roughly 1,000 or so new residents to that area. It is a $75, give or take, $1 million project that we feel, I think the market feels, is badly needed to support residential units near Tinker Air Force Base, and also to support a quality of residential unit here near Tinker Air Force Base that we don't believe is currently in the market. So as part of that PUD rezoning approval process, the City Council specifically requested this traffic signal go in and it be done at our cost, which we agreed to and we are now committed to under zoning regulation to do. The only access point to this 80-acre residential parcel is here through Sooner Road. And so we think it's absolutely critical from our standpoint, for a project feasibility standpoint, to get this traffic signal approved, which is why it was always contemplated from the get-go during the rezoning process. The other couple of things to note on this, on the southeast corner of 67th and Sooner, there's a office complex under current construction for about 35,000, give or take roughly, square feet of office. It's going to go in 4 buildings. To the east, you can kind of see now in this large zoom out, there are about 267 homes currently, and that project is the Liberty Trails project. So we actually have letters of support from both Liberty Trails and from the Crimson Spire office complex in support of this traffic signal. And so before I turn it over to Mr. Hawkins, he did submit the latest version of this traffic impact study last week on October 10th, considering obviously all the conditions necessary currently, but also based on the projected conditions of this area. Once you factor in the incoming 516 residential units, you factor in the Crimson Spire office complex, and we think it's based on that study and the analysis, this traffic signal is warranted. I will turn it over to him and be here for any questions you guys have as well. Thanks.
Sir, if I could have your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
B.J. Hawkins, 6000 Southwestern Avenue, Oklahoma City. We conducted the traffic study. It showed that once you project the traffic to 2020 and add that office complex, it does meet the 4-hour and peak hour warrants. Once we added the future development traffic, it did meet the 8-hour, 4-hour, and the peak hour warrants. As he said, the applicant is willing to pay 100% of the cost. Without the signal, it was shown to be over 6 minutes of delay on the side streets. With it, it was under 40 seconds. So if you have any questions on anything, just I'm here to answer them.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have anybody else wanting to speak on item 5C? Can we have staff input, please?
All right, you've got our full comments before you. One thing that sets this particular request apart from most is the fact that inherent with because of how the intersection is laid out, it would necessitate the use of a no turn on red restriction for people who are northbound on Sooner Road when the signal goes. They'd be stopped at a red light. Aside from that, the study that we received late last week would indicate that based on projected 2020 traffic volumes, it's anticipated this intersection will meet some of the traffic signal warrants for considering use of signalized control at this particular location. So beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. If the commission votes to approve this particular application, would recommend it be subject to staff recommendations, which would be the applicant bearing responsibility for preparation of the plans and bearing construction costs, and reconfiguring the lanes on Sooner Road to accommodate dedicated left turn lanes.
All right. Do we have any motion concerning item 5C?
Motion to approve with staff recommendations.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hale to approve item 5C to include staff recommendations. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Clare. Do we have any talk on this item? So I just have one point, and I just don't know exactly the answer. If you could come on. The lining up with the street across there, has that been thought about to try to make that happen?
It has. Due to the offset nature of this, the development doesn't have access. They're using an easement, which it unfortunately makes it offset from Southeast 67th Street. So in response to that, we are going to be split phasing east-west, where eastbound runs at one point, then westbound comes on, to make sure that there's no left turn conflicts at the intersection. All the analysis were run with that configuration, as well as that northbound no right turn on red.
Right, but I was just wondering, as you build this whole area up, was there a thought about trying to line up
Absolutely.
your exit point and that street?
As far as I know, the client has discussed with the landowner to the north, and there's been no agreement to try to have some sort of mutual access to be able to align the two streets.
Okay, thank you.
I have a
Yes, sir.
Okay, the landowner to the north, the way it's configured, you're going to have a radius that's going to encroach onto his frontage. Does that meet code?
I believe that it will not. I'm not the civil engineer as far as on this site, but I assume that I think it's a 50-foot easement, and the radius will be within that. I don't think you can get onto his property.
Yeah, I see the questions being asked. I don't think that the drawing that's currently up on the screen before you indicates the right-of-way along Sooner Road. And I think that may be a source of confusion on this particular matter. But I can't tell if it would be an encroachment. I wouldn't necessarily think so.
If you look closely, it calls out a 33-foot statutory right-of-way, so that dashed line that's just inside the curb on southbound Sooner.
Yeah, there's probably more right-of-way there than the 33 statutory at this point in time.
Okay, any other comments on that thought?
Curiosity. Did this traffic signal come as a recommendation when this was heard at planning as well?
That was condition.
Yes, so it was conditioned. It's actually specifically spelled out in the PUD 1643 as a requirement. In other words, if we didn't come in and get this traffic signal, we couldn't comply with our zoning regulations for the property. So.
Sir, did you have further comment on the previous conversation, or is that one?
No, when this item was presented to Planning Commission, it was written into the PUD document. It was not a requirement necessarily of the Planning Commission or of the City Council. It was presented to them in that manner.
Okay. Did everybody get their questions answered? Do we have a bit more time needed over there? You're good? Okay. All right, any other talk on item 5C? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Hale to include the staff recommendations, seconded by Commissioner Clare. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We go on now to item 5D. Jason Cotton, P.E., Principal, the Director of Civil Engineering, ADG PC, to consider a request to, 1, remove metered parking on the south side of Park Avenue from approximately 226 feet east to 200 48 feet east of the east curb line of North Robinson Avenue, and 2, establish a no parking anytime zone on the south side of Park Avenue from approximately 226 feet east to 248 feet east of the east curb line of North Robinson Avenue. Sir, if I could have your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name's Clint Morris with ADG 920 West Main. I'm here for Jason Cotton and representing the owner. And it's more or less, as the narrative says, we have an FDC connection for the proposed First National Center, and the request for the removal of that parking stall or that parking space is at the request of the fire marshal, so that the hydrant is accessible from the FDC. The FDC would be mounted on the building.
Would you say that last bit?
The FDC is mounted on the building, and across the street from that is an existing hydrant, so that the parking stall that we're asking to be removed is on the same side of the street as a hydrant. And we need, the fire marshal is asking that that space be removed so that in an emergency they can have easy access to the fire department connection on the building from the hydrant.
Okay. Is there anything else, sir?
No, that's it, if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5D? All right, staff?
All right, I think the applicant summarized it fairly well. Like I said, this is kind of a discretionary item, as much as the fire marshal's office is asking for basically the removal of a parking space to provide better access to a fire department connection. If this had been a fire hydrant, you're required to have clear space to 15 feet to either side, but fire department connections are not treated the same way. They're not covered the same way in the municipal code, so this would be an action item on the discretion, at the discretion of the commission. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
We do have a
But
question.
clarification, so there is an existing hydrant on the north side of the street.
Yes.
Okay, so so the fire marshal's trying to create a clear zone from point A to point B.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the fire hydrant hooks into the built-in hydrant, and then it can pump up, or?
That's right. The fire department would need to connect a hose from the hydrant to the FDC, the fire department connection, or FDC on the outside of the building, so that it supplies the sprinkler system inside the building with water from the hydrant.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, yeah, see, now, the way I understood it, and this is just me as just a basic layman, I thought that was a connection that the fire department would come up, hook up to, and get water. And what you're saying is
sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. I'm just not understanding what these things are then. So what this is a way to get water into the building system that could go up to however high it needed to go.
Correct. And all the fire marshal, what he's wanting is unobstructed access from point A to point B, point A being the existing hydrant and point B being the fire department connection on the outside of the building. So during an emergency, there's not a car in the way of them stringing a hose from the hydrant to the FDC.
And that's all they do then. They just go to the fire hydrant, hook up a hose, go to the building, hook it up, and then it provides water to the. So there's not a water system built into the building to push that. They have to hook up to it. That's how those things work.
Yeah, you're talking about a dry barrel type system. The fire suppression system's dry until water's pumped into it?
That I'd have to, I think it's for additional water, or yes, I'd have to go back and look, but generally, this is for additional water to supply the fire department connection, or the fire suppression system within the building.
That's in the building. So it's not to get water out.
Correct.
That's what I thought it
Correct.
was. Okay. All right. Well, good. Thank you very much for explaining that. Okay. Any other questions on 5D? Okay. Can I have a motion concerning item 5D?
Mr. Chairman, I move the application be approved.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Schuline to approve item 5D. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Clare. Do we have any further discussion on item 5D? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Clare. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Thank you for your time, sir. Okay, we go on now to item 6, comments from citizens. Looks like we have some. Would you like to come on up? You're the citizen. Oh, you're with him? Oh, okay. No, that's fine. We will be happy to listen to you. All right. And seeing as we're out of citizens, we'll move on now to item 7, reports from traffic commissioners, et cetera. We'll go on to Commissioner Clare.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Littlefield.
I had a really good conversation about a week or so ago with the president of Putnam Heights neighborhood. Her name is Suzanne Broadbent. That's the neighborhood where that Cashane is in the middle of Northwest 36th Street, just, I think, west of Classen. And she had been following our work here on the commission at the time that we were doing the ASAP program. And she's very interested in visiting with staff about maybe being a candidate for a speed table effort in that neighborhood. We were talking about speed tables, speed humps, and trying to find an application where they could be tested, and that might be a good source to start. How would you like me to put you in contact with her?
Yeah. Well, you can send her our direction.
I'll do it. Thank you. That's all.
Talking with her.
All right, and then we go on now to Commissioner Hale.
Just a real quick note, I had mentioned to Commissioner Schuline that if you looked at the diagram of the neighborhood that's going in on Southeast 67th, I was asking how long is it going to be before they come in and ask for stop signs on the west side of that neighborhood. It's just a straight shot. And it seems like now would be the time to get the traffic calming in place instead of trying to play catch up. So I think this goes along with what Rob and Jay both have done as far as trying to get it at the beginning instead of at the end. So where do we need to go to get that implemented?
Which location again?
Southeast 67th and sooner. If you look at the diagram of the neighborhood.
Oh, within the neighborhood?
There's a diagram of the projected.
Oh, of the intersection?
Yes. Well, no, not of the intersection, of the neighborhood itself. It's in the...
off to the east or off to the west?
To the west.
Off to the west, it's all private. They can do whatever they'd like to do.
Right.
Quite literally.
You mean it'll be gated, private? Is that what you're saying?
It's an apartment complex that's going in over there, and so it's a driveway connection that's coming in. That's
okay. So that's not going to be a long straight.
Well, it will be, but it'll be a driveway.
Right.
I mean, if they're interested in doing whatever they want to, I mean that's.
Well, I think what he's saying is, seeing as it is a PUD, right? That would, or P.
Yeah, the land was zoned as a planned unit development.
Right. What we're saying is, did they consider traffic calming on that major entry point? Is that what you're kind of talking about, sir?
Well, not only that, I know it's a private drive, but if it's a straight shot, I guess that's just my misunderstanding, that this whole section will be private. No
Yes, it's all private.
Involved.
It's entirely private.
My bad.
It's all right.
So, yeah, but that's an example of when Planning Commission does something of that nature, if it is going to become public, that we would hope that they wouldn't make a nice quarter-mile straight line kind of thing. They would build in, right, like that. They would build in some sort of traffic calming in the plan.
And they may in the future, because they show there's like a bicycle pedestrian, recreational trail that loops around this particular complex and has to cross that road, so.
Right, but
they may decide to do something on their own.
But if that was an actual public, if it was a housing area going up and it had that long access road, we would hope that planning would have said, hey, don't forget to put some little curves in there and do something to calm the speed. Because like you said, 5 years from now, they're going to come back and say, we want 25 mile an hour and we want 4 stop signs.
If it was public.
Right. Okay, got it. All right, very good. Okay, we go on now to Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
To Commissioner Miller.
Nothing, sir.
All right, to Commissioner Milner.
Nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything, Captain?
I have nothing.
Thank you very much. Counselor?
Nothing.
All right. Staff?
Just have our standard monthly report on parking controls and traffic controls installed administratively, but Other than that, I've got nothing to report. I can tell you that we are working on trying to get our angle parking standards wrapped up, which has been a very interesting process as far as putting together the draft documents, because the city's first angle parking requirements came out in 1949, and it was passed by the Traffic and Transportation Commission just a few months after its formation. So yeah, the commission's on the verge of turning 70. So at this point in time, we are hopeful to get those put back into the code, because at this point in time there are 2 sections out of the original angle parking standards that have survived the test of time, and everything else has been purged through ordinance changes through the years. We've got nearly 3 dozen angle parking applications that we processed since about 2010. So we've got a pretty good track record and a lot of experience under our belt, so we'll be coming to you shortly with our recommendations on angle parking standards.
Very good, thank you. Does anybody else have any business for the Traffic Commission? All right, we stand adjourned.